The News Watch never stops. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Good afternoon, 76 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds at 1:40. I'm Kevin Rincon. Here's what's happening. A march on Wall Street followed by a rally with the message for corporate America: do not give in to the Trump administration's demand to gut DEI. There have been at least 9 robberies in the Bronx and Harlem linked to 3 suspects, a crime spree that started last month, most cases involving thefts at gunpoint. Hoboken Pat Station, it's going to be closed all Labor Day weekend for repairs to the repairs. A shutdown that kicks in at midnight. The Federal Reserve Governor, who President Trump tried to fire, Lisa Cook, is suing to keep her job. And from the baseball field to the halls of Congress.
Teixeira sends a text message into the right field seat.
Former Yankee star Mark Teixeira running for a House seat in Texas. Right now, a mix of sun and clouds. We're expecting it to stay dry this afternoon with a high of 79. Wins News Time, 1:41. Let's get you to where you need to go with Greg Rice.
Well, here is what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. City-bound George upper level, we're looking at about a 30 to 40-minute ride because of construction, but the lower deck is now a half hour all itself. You got a crash on the inbound lower under the apartments. It blocks the middle lane. West Side Highway getting worse right now. Slow out of the 120s up towards the ramp to the eastbound Cross Bronx. Harlem River Drive still worse with a standstill from the RFK. Southbound Deegan after Fordham Road, right lane out with a crash. Northbound Deegan, as bad as it is, the best way out of the Bronx. Lincoln, a few minutes into the city, outbound side of the Lincoln Tunnel, no more than a few minutes. The outbound Holland, that's up to 15 to 20. Inbound Skyway is a bit slow. Newark Bay is better. Whitestone bad either way across the Upper East. Queensbound Throgs Neck is a mess. Bronxbound side of the RFK is slow, especially leaving Queens. A lot of that traffic is trying to get into the city, but the southbound FDR Drive a mess through East 111th Street because of the ongoing repaving project. Greg Rice, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
On this day, 62 years ago, the March on Washington, led by Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Today, well, the fight for civil rights has changed, but it's not over. Thousands, they took to the streets down by Wall Street, urging corporate America to resist President Trump's campaign against diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our Mary Lynn Buckley joining us live with more on that.
Kevin, the turnout was massive, and it wasn't just New Yorkers. It was people from all over the country that came out to show up. They said they wanted to be heard, to speak up, to fight for diversity, equity, and inclusion, to be protected all throughout the country, despite what president wants anything to go in place. We also did see Reverend Al Sharpton taking to the stage, and he was clear to point out that the only mayoral candidate that was in attendance was Zohran Mamdani, who marched behind Sharpton the entire way, starting at Foley Square to the ICE building and then all the way down to Whitehall Station. But Sharpton telling everyone that corporate America wants to walk away from black communities, so that is why everyone must come out, march, and fight right at their doorstep. That rally going straight past Wall Street, and everyone saying this is just the beginning of the fight that is going to continue. Mary Lynn Buckley, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM, live at Whitehall Station.
Ghost cars continue to be a problem in the city. Drivers who use license plate covers or fake license plates altogether. City Council member Gail Brewer says they're breaking the law.
It's not just that they have illegal plates, they don't pay their fines, the owners, and they commit more infractions in terms of traffic laws than anybody else with a legitimate car that's registered appropriately.
A popular tactic is to use out-of-state license plates. A new report from the City Council finds it's happening the most in the Bronx. They looked at cars that received violations with out-of-state plates and found the highest concentration there in that borough, followed by Brooklyn and Queens. The report also finds, not surprisingly, that vehicles with ghost plates commit more traffic and parking infractions, and they owe more in fines. Cops are on the hunt for 3 suspects behind the string of robberies across the Bronx and Harlem. Police say they've struck at least 9 times, starting in July, the latest theft last week. In most cases, investigators say someone pulls out a gun, then the 3 of them make off with jewelry, cash, and in one case, they stole a car. They've also been accused of robbing a convenience store. They've taken at least $3,500 in cash alone. The value of the stolen jewelry and other personal items not known. No arrests. Anyone with information has to contact Crime Stoppers. Hoboken path riders are going to need another way to get around over the Labor Day weekend. The Port Authority shutting down the Hoboken Path Station, all of it, starting at midnight to make emergency repairs. It won't reopen until Tuesday morning. Mayor Ravi Bala says it'll cause a bit of a headache.
This is going to cause disruption for residents, commuters, and businesses. Although ridership is relatively low on the holiday weekend, according to the path.
The Port Authority says they need to upgrade the track and interlocking system that allows path trains to switch tracks and access different platforms. They're coordinating with NJ Transit, New York Waterway, and other transportation options so commuters can still get to where they need to go. It is the last day for a beloved diner in Brooklyn Heights, serving a community for more than 4 decades.
Dimitri Licorenzos' voice is a little hoarse.
This place isn't a restaurant. It's my home.
From all the embraces and the tears with the people who are his family, who just so happen to be his customers at the Park Plaza Diner.
The people from the neighborhood, especially elderly people, this is where they unite.
But starting in 2018, business they relied on from religious tour groups began drying up. And then the pandemic.
It gets worse every year.
But Dimitri's home for 42 years will be remembered as a community center for the people. Mac Rosenberg, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in Brooklyn Heights.
President Trump tried to oust Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Well, now she's suing. The Trump administration claimed that she lied on mortgage applications, an allegation that they have been leveling against a number of Democratic rivals. It's what they said New York Attorney General Tish James engaged in as well. No immediate details on Cook's lawsuit, but it does kick off an unprecedented legal fight over independence of the central bank. Trump has been feuding with the Fed for quite some time now over its refusal, so far, to lower interest rates. After less than a month on the job, the head of the CDC fired. Susan Menowitz says she is not leaving, says her termination is not legally sound and is instead politically motivated.
Her lawyers say Kennedy is, quote, weaponizing public health for political gain and putting millions of Americans' lives at risk. And she's not the only one protesting. Overnight, at least 4 other top CDC officials quitting en masse, including the CDC's chief medical officer and the director of the immunization center.
Mary Bruce reporting a spokesman said Monowitz is not aligned with President Trump's agenda and refused to resign, which is why the White House decided to fire her. A long-time tradition at the Kennedy Center is changing.
James Pattern and his family have been making the medals that have been handed out to Kennedy Center honorees since 1978.
They're iconic.
The gold-plated medallions attached to rainbow ribbon necklaces have been worn around the necks of some of the nation's most treasured artists. But now President Trump says they're going in a different direction, and Tiffany & Company will be redesigning them.
Hard to believe after 47 years.
His son calls the decision silly.
I see people redesigning the Oscars or the Golden Globes. It's what it should be, it's what it will be, it's what it was designed to be.
The correspondent Stacey Lund. France, Germany, the UK, they have started the process of reimposing UN sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program. They're looking to once again freeze Iranian assets abroad, halt arms deals, and penalize any development of its ballistic missile program. The goal to further isolate Iran after its nearly 2-week-long war with Israel, which saw its atomic sites get repeatedly bombed. A former Yankee, Major League Baseball All-Star, is running for office.
Mark Teixeira sends a text message into the right field seats. You're the Mark Teixeira.
Mark Teixeira running as a Republican in the Texas House in a safe red seat that's being vacated. Took to social media to appeal to President Trump for his backing, writing he's ready to help defend Trump's America First agenda. Teixeira played 14 seasons in the majors and was part of the 2009 Yankees World Series team. Also spent some time with the Texas Rangers, who last played in the 2016 season. South Carolina's Don Staley was in the running to become the new head coach at the Knicks, for the Knicks. Ultimately, he wasn't offered the job, but said in a new interview if she was, well, she would have taken it.
If the Knicks would have offered me the job, I would have had to do it, okay? Not just for me, it's for women, for just to break open that. I would have to, and it's the New York Knicks, and I'm from Philly, but it's the freaking New York Knicks.
She spoke on the Post Moves podcast. She said she might have shot herself in the foot during the interviews. She was really well prepared, but asked Nick officials about how it would impact the franchise if they hired the first female coach in the NBA. She said maybe they didn't want to deal with all the questions surrounding that possible distraction. The job ultimately went to Mike Brown. An ancient city that sunk in the sea, brought back to life. More on that in a minute. First at 1:51, let's get you to where you need to go with Greg Rice.
Now, you can't catch a break at the George Washington Bridge, only brake lights. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. 30 to 40 minutes now on the inbound upper deck of the George, where you've got the ongoing right lane construction across the span. But now the inbound lower level is at least a half hour as well because of a crash under the apartments blocking at least one and at times multiple lanes. Out of Manhattan, pick your poise and northbound West Side Highway and Harlem River Drive, both standstills from the 120s on up in the Bronx. Southbound Deegan after Fordham Road, right lane out with a truck crash. Northbound Deegan, for all of its faults, best way out of the Bronx. Lincoln, it's about 10 minutes either way. The outbound of Holland's about an extra 20 minutes. Inbound Skyway, a couple. Newark Bay is better. Whitestone, the worst of it either way across the Upper East. Clearview, Throgs Neck, turning into the better ride both ways. Greg Rice, 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
1010 wins, AccuWeather forecast. Meteorologist Brian Thompson.
And Kevin, it is going to continue to be very nice through the remainder of the afternoon. We have a mix of clouds and sunshine, but it is another very comfortable day with low humidity and temperatures again mostly in the 70s. We're heading for a high of 79 this afternoon. Partly to mostly cloudy tonight. Not quite as cool as the past couple of nights with a shower in spots late tonight, well north and west of the city. A low of 65. And then tomorrow, clouds and some sun. Looks like a lot of the time is going to be dry. There will be the risk for a thunder shower, especially during the morning and into the early part of the afternoon. But a lot of areas may end up staying dry. A high tomorrow 78. And it does look dry through the Labor Day weekend. Lots of sunshine Saturday and Sunday. The humidity stays low. Highs in the mid to upper 70s. Might even hit 80 by Labor Day. 76 and partly sunny right now in Midtown. We're going up to 79. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Brian Thompson on New York's weather station. 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
An old party city has surfaced in the Middle East. We're not talking about the store.
Egyptian officials say archaeologists have lifted the remnants of an ancient sunken city out of the sea off Alexandria. The excavation uncovered statues of human figures, a sphinx, an ancient dock, Roman coins and tools, including parts of a millstone that all date back more than 2,000 years. An expert at Oxford says ancient texts show Canopus was a religious center and also a party town, known for all sorts of licentious behavior before it was gradually swallowed up over the centuries by earthquakes and rising waters. Deborah Rodriguez for 1010 wins.
Archaeologists in southeastern Europe, they made a big discovery.
They found a 1.8 million-year-old human jawbone in Georgia. It may be proof our hunter-gathering ancestors began migrating from Africa to Eurasia a million years earlier than first thought. Archaeologist Juliette Zuniga
can really tell us a lot about the activity, evolution, physical characteristics of these Homo erectus individuals.
Her team also found stone tools and fossils of saber-toothed tigers and giraffes.
I think this site has huge potential. We've only scratched the surface.
Correspondent Michael Wallace. Time now for Bloomberg Money Watch.
Hormel Foods is joining a growing list of other companies like Ace Hardware and Folgers maker J.M. Smucker, telling customers to expect higher prices. Hormel says the rising costs for meat, nuts, and other goods are cutting into its profits. Hormel makes Spam, Jenny O Turkey, and Planters Nuts. It says the cost of bellies used in bacon products alone have shot up 30% compared to last year. Less than 24 hours ahead of the release of the Fed's favorite price gauge, today's data shows the U.S. economy expanded faster than initially estimated, underscoring the resilience of America's primary growth engine, consumer spending. I'm Erica Herskowitz. Bloomberg Money Watch on 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
WINS FM and HD1 New York. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
More people get their news from 1010 wins than from any other radio station in the nation. Angela Laurie is our service aide. Justin Schrager at the editor's desk. I'm Kevin Brincone.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM, New York.
Good afternoon. 78 degrees. Overcast skies at 2 o'clock. I'm Larry Mullins, and here's what's happening. A clapback protest rally against retailers who are removing DEI programs in the wake of the Trump anti-DEI initiatives. Coming up, we will take you to the financial district. Big rally in March led by Reverend Al, timed to the Civil Rights Era March on Washington in 1963. Also today, an arrest and charges for the man police say who was involved in a fatal motorcycle crash yesterday with an off-duty police officer. City Council says the Bronx gets the prize for the borough where the most ghost plates and out-of-state plate and switch crimes occur. The crackdown on phony plates continues now. A pair of safety inspectors on the hot seat after investigators in the Inspector General's office say they found hundreds of fake gas pipeline test results. Uh-oh. And the mere thought of something like this happening in the States would have every teenager racing into the streets. The mayor of a town in Japan peddling a law that would limit smartphone use to only 2 hours a day. Quick, text all your friends and tell them the news is about to start. AccuWeather says pleasant with a mix of sun and clouds today. It'll get to a high of 79. Let's get it started. Wins News Time 2:01, and let's get to where you need to go now. Here's Greg Rice.
It is still awful at the inbound George, but it might be getting a bit better on the inbound lower. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. 30 to 40 minutes citybound on either level. Maybe the lower is your best bet because they did just get rid of the crash that caused this mess on the inbound lower level, so that should get better soon. Inbound upper deck, the reason for it, the right lane construction, that very much is still there. West Side Highway, slow ride right now from the 120s on up to the eastbound Cross Bronx, but again, that too will start to get better. Northbound Harlem River Drive, a standstill. That will remain out of the 130s. Southbound Deegan before Fordham Road, or just south of it, you got a crash in the right lane. Northbound Deegan, best of it out of the Bronx right now. Not great, but everything else is worse. Lincoln's about 10 minutes in. No more than a few minutes out. It's about 15 to 20 minutes home at the Holland. Inbound Skyway a bit slow. Newark Bay is better. Traffic is sponsored by Anne Frank, the exhibition. Step into history at Anne Frank, the exhibition in New York City. Explore original artifacts, diary excerpts, and immersive displays that bring Anne's powerful story to life. Discover lessons of resilience, hope, and humanity that still inspire today. Plan your visit now at AnneFrankExhibit.org. Greg Rice, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
Reverend Al says you can try to turn back the clock, but you can't turn back time. As we go on the air, there's a march and rally, perhaps concluding now, telling corporate America enough of this trying to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as if people are going to all of a sudden forget history, he says, and the strides America has made to even the playing field. Sharpton and NAN, the National Action Network, have encouraged consumers to avoid U.S. retailers that scale back their policies and programs aimed at bolstering diversity. The CEO of one of the big box stores, Target, just resigned under pressure. That continued pushback against President Trump's drop DEI or lose federal funding threat tops our news on this Thursday afternoon. Reporter Mary Lynn Buckley joining us live in the Financial District, leading us off.
Larry, this was a massive turnout. The march started at Foley Square near the ICE building, and they went all the way straight to Wall Street, stopping at Whitehall Station, led by Reverend Al Sharpton, with Zohran Mamdani right behind him.
Why do we come to Wall Street? Since you have benefited from Trump, we come to tell you your benefit days are numbered. We're not going back. You said, well, we have a couple of hundred people. We will march along. Thousands march.
And thousands did march indeed. And not just New Yorkers, people that came out from all over the country. Even at one point, people on the stage shouting out different people from different states that came to show up. They say the fight is just beginning. It is far from over. Mary Lynn Buckley, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM in the Financial District.
And Sharpton also calling for what he's described as a boycott, that is supporting companies like Costco, where they're sticking with their DEI principles despite conservative backlash. They've charged the driver in a deadly motorcycle crash that killed an off-duty officer on the BQE yesterday morning. That crash happened just before 8:30 on the westbound side of the expressway near Atlantic Avenue. Cops say the off-duty officer was killed when his bike collided with a box truck. Say the driver initially left the scene. Police later arrested 30-year-old Carlos Ceribio for leaving the scene and operating an unregistered vehicle without a license plate. They have not released the name of the officer who was killed. And the winner is, when it comes to out-of-state license plates and those cars, the Bronx. The New York City Council put out a report about so-called plate and switch, where folks are riding around with out-of-state license plates. The only thing, Councilmember Gail Brewer says, those aren't necessarily tourists you're riding behind. And she says they're breaking all the rules.
Guess who is committing the most? Parking by the hydrants, going through red lights, all the ways that you're not supposed to drive or produce infractions. These cars are substantially more listed in terms of the Department of Finance.
Yeah, she says out of 3,500 vehicles that received violations in a 2-month period, almost 800 had out-of-state plates, and 1 out of 5 had license plates that were not registered to the vehicles they were on. They were ghost plates. Officials say the crackdown continues. Last week, the NYPD announced they had seized more than 5,300 vehicles with fake or altered license plates. The Manhattan DA, with a word to folks that hired day laborers, please don't rip these poor folks off during the Labor Day weekend. The DA says these folks are law-abiding immigrants, but with the potential for wage theft at an all-time high, they're probably afraid to go tell somebody out of fear they're going to be deported if they're cheated.
The DA's wage theft unit has recovered $1.3 million for over 4 dozen workers in the past 2 years. But after President Trump took office, Unit Chief Russian Apathic has seen calls to the hotline drop dramatically.
We used to get a couple complaints every week. We now get a couple complaints a month. So I think the fear is real.
Apathic said construction workers, day laborers in particular, are most vulnerable to wage theft.
But every worker has rights, no matter their status.
The office does not work with ICE. Employees can make their complaints anonymously, but will need to sit down with an investigator so prosecutors can build their case. Marla Diamond, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Yeah, officials say therein lies the problem. Folks aren't trusting that they can just walk in and file a complaint and not have ICE standing outside the door with handcuffs. Holiday travel projections out. They're saying a record 2.4 million folks are expected at Port Authority airports during the 6-day Labor Day travel period. That's a 1% rise over last year's record. Look, today, tomorrow, and Monday will be the craziest out of the big three and at Stewart International in Orange County, talking about the airports here. They're also expecting about 4.2 million folks to drive across the bridges and tunnels over the holiday. So they're suspending all non-emergency repairs and construction projects starting at 5 tomorrow morning through 5 a.m. on Tuesday. The Port Authority says if you're planning to travel by air, land, sea, or foot, you'd better get the step in early or you'll be idling in place, unfortunately, they say. The Hoboken Path Station is about to go down again, but this time they're saying it's only for the Labor Day weekend for some much-needed repairs. Port Authority says they'll close Hoboken tonight at midnight and then through 5 a.m. Tuesday, September 2nd. Mayor Ravi Bala says he's okay with it as long as they communicate what they're doing so folks aren't left in the dark.
They're dealing with it through proactive communication. They're dealing with it through speaking with local officials on a regular basis, keeping us updated. A very transparent and proactive process, which frankly I'm encouraged by.
Yeah, he says they've coordinated with NJ Transit and the New York Waterway to provide alternate routes. Oh boy, this next one is scary and an eye-opener. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District and the Inspector General unsealed an indictment today, naming a pair of safety inspectors with rigging hundreds of gas pipeline test results. And the scariest part, they say the alleged fraudulent safety inspections of natural gas pipelines involved equipment installed throughout New York City and Westchester.
The charges handed down by U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton. He says between 2016 and 2023, safety inspectors Liam Tribert and Michael Vasconcellos scammed Con Ed and the public, lying about inspecting hundreds of these gas pipelines in New York City and Westchester, sending in bogus reports to Con Ed, and getting paid lots of money in the process. The 30-year-old Tribert and Vasconcellos, who is 44, well, they now each face 20 years in prison if convicted on these wire fraud charges. Part of a statement from Con Ed, they say, quote, "Safety is Con Ed's top priority, and today's indictment will help deter future misconduct against Con Ed." Glenn Schuck, 1010 Wins, 92.3 FM.
78 degrees and overcast. Coming up after traffic and AccuWeather.
It's the New York Knicks, and I'm from Philly, but it's the freaking New York Knicks.
I know that's right. That was South Carolina women's coach Dawn Staley, who was apparently interviewed for the head coaching job with the Knicks. It didn't happen, but she says if they offered, she loves the Gamecocks, but they would have been looking for a new head coach. Staley says the Knicks would have been a glass ceiling she would have had to break. Hang on a minute. She says that's freaking New York Knicks. When's news time 2:11? Get you where you need to go now. How about it, Greg Rice?
Well, you got trouble on the east side of Manhattan. If you've driven through, you notice. South End FDR near East 111th Street. They are smack in the middle of an overnight repaving project. As you go through 111th Street, the two left lanes have been repaved. Right lane is still rough road, and all of this mess on the southbound FDR on your east 111th is why you're loaded up from the 120s and why the city-bound RFK Bridge is awful, especially out of Queens. West Side Highway, that's going to be the better ride out of Manhattan, as the northbound Harlem River Drive is a mess. City-bound George, go with the lower. It's getting better, faster. The upper level still has right lane construction. The inbound lower crash has gone in the Bronx. Southbound Deegan near Fordham Road, a crash in the right lane. Lincoln, it's about 10 minutes in. Outbound Lincoln, no more than a few. Holland, 20 minutes out on the Jersey side. Newark Bay is better. Greg Rice, 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
Jay, and now your AccuWeather 4-day forecast. Meteorologist Brian Thompson with this live report.
And Larry, it is a beautiful afternoon once again. We have mixed clouds and sunshine. It remains very comfortable. We'll have a high around 79 this afternoon. Partly to mostly cloudy tonight, so there could be a shower in spots late tonight, well north and west of the city, a low of 65. And then clouds and some sun tomorrow. There will be a cold front moving through that may touch off a shower, maybe even a thunder shower in spots, especially during the morning and early afternoon. But a good chunk of the area may end up staying dry tomorrow, a high of 78. And it does look dry for the holiday weekend. Lots of sunshine Saturday and Sunday. Highs in the mid to upper 70s, might get closer to 80, with again a good deal of sunshine on Labor Day. 76 degrees and partly sunny right now in Midtown. We're going up to 79. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Brian Thompson on New York's weather station. 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
So it's come out that Dawn Staley, arguably one of the best female round bowl coaches on the planet, has interviewed for the New York Knicks head coaching job, or she was interviewed, I should say. It had been rumored, but not much came out of it. So as you know, she's the celebrated and decorated head coach of the three-time national champion South Carolina women's team. Well, the Knicks ended up hiring Mike Brown, but Staley says, are you kidding? If Dolan and those guys would have offered her the gig, she would have been blocking Spike Lee's courtside view up and down that court.
If the Knicks would have offered me the job, I would have had to do it, okay? Not just for me, it's for women, for just to break open that I would have to, and it's the New York Knicks, and I'm from Philly, but it's the freaking New York Knicks.
It's the freaking New York Knicks. Boy, that would have been something. Now, Brother Mike Brown is no slouch, but a Dawn Staley bench to break the glass ceiling, I would have bought season tickets to sit in the nosebleeds for those games, folks. Staley's comments came during a sit-down on Post Moves, the podcast with Aaliyah Boston and Candace Parker. By the way, it's unclear how seriously the Knicks considered hiring Staley, but she says the interview looked good. I hope they keep her resume on file.
The 2025 U.S. Open Tennis Championships are back. Where the world's greatest city meets the world's greatest tennis players. This is where tradition meets trending. And every moment, history. August 18th through September 7th. And for the first time ever, the Singles Championship starts Sunday, August 24th. All tickets on sale now at usopen.org. Spectacular awaits.
Boy, this next one here could get real interesting. Listen to this, and especially if our counterparts in Japan are like us. Every soul on the subways and buses, you know it, and anywhere else for that matter, is on their smartphones, texting or talking or surfing, whatever. The Japanese city of Toyoaki is voting on a law that would limit residents to only, I can't even say it, 2 hours of smartphone use per day. We're talking tablets, computers, smartphones, etc. outside of work and school obligations. Good luck with that. It says here the ordinance would be non-binding and that it would also urge elementary school-age kids to cut off screen time by 9 p.m., 10 p.m. if you're a middle schooler or an older kid. The ordinance wouldn't fine anybody or throw them in jail or anything like that. I guess you'd just be subject to the occasional side eye. The mayor says the bill is designed to promote a measure that will keep folks from suffering adverse effects on their bodies and daily lives from excessive smartphone use. Oh, I could just hear my granddaughter Kennedy. What? Gee, Daddy, only 2 hours a day? I'm going to die. And then there's this. There's a study. Kyle mentioned this to me before the show. A study that talks about what happens sometimes when they decides to ignore you to give more attention to their emojis.
Does your partner ever ignore you to look at their phone? It could be causing some lasting harm. Researchers at the University of Southampton found people with emotional insecurities reported more depression, lower self-esteem, and greater resentment when their partners snubbed them to look at their phones. It also led to people retaliating by going online to get validation from others.
Translation, if you keep this up, they might be on their phone sending you a goodbye emoji. I'm just saying, LOL. At the U.S. Open, it was the end of the women's singles matches, and the opponents shook hands. Everything seemed fine. But then, all of a sudden, it was on. That conversation went south in 0 seconds flat.
American Taylor Townsend had just beaten Latvian Jelena Ostapenko in the second round on ESPN.
No love lost between these two.
And after they shook hands, they argued face to face. Townsend spoke about it later.
People get upset when they lose, and you can't. Some people say bad things. She told me I have no class, I have no education, and to see what happens when we get outside the U.S.
Ostapenko posted later Townsend was disrespectful for not indicating she was sorry after being helped by a neck cord during a point. Townsend is black, and the Latvian denied race had anything to do with the confrontation.
Steve Keith and many folks online say Ostapenko was rude. She was in poor taste. She's a sore loser. With some actually thanking Townsend for dispatching the Latvian tennis player early. Traffic on Sunday nights around here in the summer, and especially on a holiday weekend, can be as bad as the weekday rush. So we've expanded traffic reports to get you where you need to go Sunday nights through Labor Day.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
It's overcast at 78 degrees here at 220. I'm Larry Mullins, and here's what's happening. We'll get you more from downtown where there are protest rallies on Wall Street against anti-DEI practices in big business. Reverend Al is leading a group on the anniversary of the 1963 Civil Rights Marches on D.C. New Jersey Governor Murphy wants the FAA to issue a ruling banning non-essential helicopters from flying over sections of Jersey City, or at least curtail their flight paths. It's coming in the midst of that tragic crash back in April, remember, which killed an entire family from Spain. They're closing the Park Plaza restaurant in Brooklyn Heights, I see.
This place isn't a restaurant. It's my home.
Yeah, folks remembering the Foodie Haven in Cabin Plaza shutting down after 42 years. We'll explain why. Speaking of closings, the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam threatening to close its doors if the Dutch government doesn't help foot the bill for major repairs on the aging building. So says the museum's director. And in 1010 Wins Entertainment will tell you where in the city to see the Jaws 50th anniversary re-release. Stay tuned a moment. Back with us is Pleasant with a mix of sun and clouds. We'll reach a high of 79 degrees on this Thursday. Wins News Time 221. Let's get to where you need to go now. Here is Greg Rice.
Well, if you play your cards right, it's getting better around the George Washington Bridge. So let us deal you in. Northbound West Side Highway, by far the best of it out of Manhattan. They got rid of that crash on the inbound lower into the apartments, and the West Side Highway really responded. Southbound D, even though that's a bit of a mess past Fordham Road, with a crash in the right lane. Citybound George, nothing's perfect, but it's better on the inbound lower. And the crash on the inbound lower level is gone. Inbound upper deck, but you're still dealing with the right lane construction work. Lincoln, no more than a few minutes in, outbound side of the Lincoln Tunnel, about an extra 20 minutes now from 11 to be better from 9th. And here we go with the Holland, 30 to 40 minutes out of town. On the Jersey side, Newark Bay, it's going to be better either way. Citybound Midtown Tunnel, messy. RFK Bronxbound, Whitestone either way. Queensbound Throgs Neck with extra traffic. Greg Rice, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
And there is more today on that massive march in the financial district led by Reverend Al Sharpton and other civil rights leaders over some of these companies that are rolling back their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs to appease President Trump. Reporter Mary Lynn Buckley on Wall Street with protesters.
It started with a march at Foley Square, stretching all the way down to Wall Street, followed by a rally being led by Reverend Al Sharpton to protect diversity, equity, and inclusion.
We marched towards your offices because we know your address. And we're going to march and keep coming to you until we turn the economic inequality in this country around. We're not going back.
Zohran Mamdani marching right behind him the entire way.
As a man looking to be the next mayor of this city, and I tell you that every day I will wake up with Dr. King's dream at the forefront of my mind.
Mary Lynn Buckley, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM in Lower Manhattan.
In other news, Governor Murphy wants to ban or at least sharply reduce non-essential helicopter flights in New Jersey after that helicopter crash on the Hudson back in April, which killed an entire family. Fired off a letter to the FAA specifically requesting the agency exercise its authority to prohibit the number of non-essential helicopter flights operating in the state. Tourist chopper went down about 75 feet from the Jersey City waterfront right there at Newport. The NTSB still investigating that cause. Murphy says a future crash over land could have more devastating consequences. He says we shouldn't be sitting around waiting for something to happen before we take action. Governor says if the FAA won't ban flights altogether, he says at least do something to move the flight paths away from populated areas. He also wants them to limit the hours. Similar restrictions are in place in Hawaii over the Volcanoes National Park there. Amtrak announced today some new Acela trains have hit rails between D.C. and New York and Boston. These are the trains that shuttle people between Boston, D.C., stops in Wilmington, Delaware, Philly, Pierre, New Haven, and Providence. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the new fancy-smancy trains will improve the passenger experience and reduce costs.
They're going to be faster. We're going to have not 15 trains, we're going to have 28 trains. So we're going to be able to carry more people on these trains, which I hopefully means better pricing. It's going to mean better revenue, but most importantly, a better experience for the traveling public.
Yeah, these next-gen trains can reach top speeds of 160. That's 10 more than the current fleet. They also feature a special tilt system to help the trains navigate curves better at high speeds. They say these trains have charging plugs at every seat, free Wi-Fi, reading lights, bigger seats, bigger bathrooms, real toilet paper. Okay, I tossed that last one in for free. I thought I was on the roll here. One of the new trains arrived in Boston last night and pulled out for Washington early this morning. Well, this is pretty encouraging, and especially if you can figure out a way to cure humans from cancer. A clinical trial which may have cured a dog which had terminal cancer.
2 years ago, Lola, the golden retriever's owners, were told she had 2 months to live after her cancer had spread to her lungs. As a last chance, Lola was enrolled in a clinical trial of a new inhaled immunotherapy at UC Davis. At first, she failed out, but Dr. Robert Rabune says a month later, Lola was cancer-free.
What we're trying to figure out is what makes Lola different, what makes her part of that 10% that responded.
The answer could help save humans with cancer.
That's Michael Wallace reporting. And now Bloomberg Money Wallace.
People are doing a lot less printing, at least with their own printers. That is a drag on the world's biggest maker of printers, but more than offsetting that weakness for HP is strengthened sales of HP PCs, helped by hot demand for those running the latest AI software. HP has been responding to tariffs by switching where it sources most of the products it sells in the U.S. from China to other countries. That also helps helping HP. Stock index is up, Dow rising 6, NASDAQ up 128, S&P up 18. I'm Andrew O'Dane, Bloomberg Money Watch on 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
1010 Wins. They cover everything.
Curated just right.
You're aware of what's going on around you?
I just leave it on all day.
1010 Wins.
At 92.3 FM. 78 degrees, Wins news time 2:30.
Good afternoon. I'm Lori Madden. Do you know what you're doing for dinner tonight? Last call for a tuna melt at a Brooklyn favorite.
The Park Plaza Diner means a lot of things to a lot of people.
This place has been a neighborhood institution.
It's been valuable for as long as it's been here.
A lot of memories.
I feel at home here.
It's been around since 1982. Started by a Greek immigrant, Dimitri Likorenzos' father. The diner has been Dimitri's life.
I'm happy, I'm honored, I'm grateful, and I love people. That's why I'm in this business.
And the people love him, but he says since 2018, the diner has been losing money, and it never recovered from the pandemic. Mac Rosenberg, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM in Brooklyn Heights.
They're closing shop tonight. Wins News Time, 2:31. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Greg Rice.
Good afternoon, Lori. Here is what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. City-bound George, go low if you can. It's not perfect, but it's getting better. Inbound lower, still in recovery. Following an earlier crash under the apartments, the upper deck goes still with right lane construction at a 30 to 40-minute backup. West side, the easiest way out of town. Best out of the Bronx is the North End Egan. It's not great, but everything else is that much worse. Lincoln, no more than about 10 minutes in now. The outbound side of the Lincoln Tunnel right now. About an extra 15 to 20 minutes from 11. U19 Holland, already 45 minutes out of town. On the Jersey side, Newark Bay, better either way. City bound Midtown Tunnel, Whitestone either way. The city-bound RFK, all jammed up. And the ride on the Throgs Neck, it's a bit slow Queensbound right now. Staten Island Expressway already starting to slow west off the Verrazano and all the way on out towards the West Shore Expressway. Greg Rice, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
Let's get a check of your AccuWeather forecast now. Here's meteorologist Brian Thompson.
Well, Lori, we've been seeing a mix of clouds and sunshine throughout the day. It is another very comfortable day. Temperatures are mostly in the mid to upper 70s, and the humidity remains very low this afternoon. Now, it is going to be clouding up tonight. We may have a stray shower late tonight, well north and west of the city. With more clouds around, it won't be quite as cool as the past couple of nights, low 65. Clouds and some sunshine for tomorrow. Might have a thunder shower in some spots, most likely through the mid-afternoon hours as a cold front swings through, but it looks like a lot of the area may end up staying dry, a high of 78. Clear to partly cloudy, cool tomorrow night, lows down into the 50s, and sunny and beautiful Saturday, high 75. That nice weather continues Sunday and Labor Day with sunshine, still low humidity with highs in the upper 70s to near 80. Partly sunny and 75 degrees right now in Midtown. We're going down to 65 tonight. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Brian Thompson on New York's weather station, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM.
Tourism appears to be taking a hit in the nation's capital these days.
Destination DC predicts a 5% drop in international visitors this year, and there are concerns even more people will be drawn away.
Right now, things aren't great.
CEO Elliot Ferguson says they've been here before.
But never have we been in a space whereas the leader of our country is giving a false sense of what Washington has to offer as a city.
Christopher Dreer owns a local tour guide company.
Definitely a marked decrease in the number of people we have.
And he says many are asking, is it safe?
That was a very rare question. Now it's probably half to three-quarters of the people.
Correspondent Stacey Lynn. For many, a trip to Amsterdam isn't complete without a stop at the Van Gogh Museum. But the museum is warning it may have to shut its doors if the Dutch government doesn't help fund much-needed repairs. The director calls the situation urgent and says the original 50-year-old building owned by the Dutch government needs extensive repairs to keep its priceless art collection and visitors safe. During the renovation, the Van Gogh Museum would be partly closed and would earn less from ticket sales. They knew how to party in ancient Egypt and were learning just how much of a good time they had.
Egyptian officials say archaeologists have lifted the remnants of an ancient sunken city out of the sea off Alexandria. The excavation uncovered statues of human figures, a sphinx, an ancient dock, Roman coins and tools, including parts of a millstone, that all date back more than 2,000 years. An expert at Oxford says ancient texts show Canopus was a religious center and also a party town, known for all sorts of licentious behavior before it was gradually swallowed up over the centuries by earthquakes and rising waters. Deborah Rodriguez for 1010 Winds.
A new report takes a look at childhood asthma and just what children are eating.
Kids' unhealthy diets could be linked to a severe form of asthma. A Children's Hospital of Philadelphia study found fatty foods that cause obesity can also cause lung inflammation in children. Researchers say these dietary fats, often found in processed foods, can even cause asthma in children who aren't obese. This type of asthma is even more difficult to treat than allergic asthma.
It's correspondent Michael George. 1010 Winds AccuWeather says it'll be partly to mostly cloudy tonight. We might see a shower pop up late this evening, well to the north and west of the city, low 65. And then tomorrow, clouds, some sun. We also may see a thunderstorm in the afternoon, high 78. Right now it's 75 degrees, partly sunny here in the city. So, what's that in the water? Wait, it's on the big screen. That story's next. The city never sleeps, and neither do we. All news, 92.3 FM. Always here when you need us.
The News Watch never stops. This is 1010 Winds at 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Good afternoon, 75 degrees at 2:40. I'm Lori Medden, and here's what's happening. Demonstrators led by Reverend Sharpton marched to the financial district with a message to Wall Street about diversity programs. Our Mary Lynn Buckley with the story in a moment. The Port Authority says today will be one of the busiest days of the holiday weekend at the airports, where the TSA is expecting record numbers. The Hoboken Path Station will be out of service beginning tonight and for the rest of the holiday weekend for urgent track work. Former Yankee Mark Teixeira looking for a home run on the campaign trail as he runs for Congress as a Republican in Texas. Mamma Mia is singing Broadway's tune with a sellout revival and box office jackpot. 1010 Winds AccuWeather says partly cloudy tonight. We might see a shower north and west of the city late, low 65. We might see a thunderstorm tomorrow afternoon, high 78. Winds News Time 241. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Greg Rice.
Now, Laura, you mentioned the airports. Just want to touch on that first. You have big ground delays over at Newark Airport, but that seems to be because of the ongoing issues they had this morning, nothing to do with the weather or anything. And LaGuardia and Kennedy, they're all in pretty decent shape. Now, on the east side of Manhattan, southbound Harlem River FDR combination loaded out of the 130th through East 111th Street because of the repaving project from the rough road surface you got to deal with the next couple of nights. Southbound west side, highway's better. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and the tunnels. Citybound side, the George Washington Bridge, lower a whole lot better. Upper deck for an extra 30 minutes. Again, the west side bested it out. Northbound Deegan best out of the Bronx. Lincoln, no more than a few minutes in. Outbound Lincoln 30 plus from 11th, U on 9th. Holland a 40 to 60 minute outbound ride. Newark Bay better either way. On the Jersey side, RFK leaving Queenston into Manhattan is awful. The Whitestone bad either way. Throgs Neck Clearview, that's the one you want across the Upper East. Keep in mind it's another night where you've got both the Mets game and a U.S. Open night session in Queens. So the Whitestone's only going to get worse. Greg Rice, 1010 Winds at 92.3 FM.
Demonstrators in Lower Manhattan this afternoon say they have a message for Wall Street.
Their chants could be heard all throughout Manhattan as thousands rallied and marched in support of DEI programs being protected all throughout the country, led by Reverend Al Sharpton.
We are the most educated and refined African Americans in the history of this country. If we could fight when we had nothing, we can fight with what we got now.
The only candidate running for New York City mayor in attendance, Zohran Mamdani.
Our freedom is only as good as our ability to exercise it.
The National Action Network is encouraging consumers to avoid any U.S. retailer that has scaled back on their policies and programs regarding diversity. Mary Lynn Buckley, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM in Lower Manhattan.
If you're heading to the airport today for a holiday weekend trip, the Port Authority says you'll be among some 2.4 million travelers expected at the area airports during the 6-day travel period. That's a 1% increase from the record set last year. And the agency says today, tomorrow, and Monday are expected to be the busiest days at JFK, Newark, LaGuardia, and Stewart Airport. The TSA says it's expecting its largest ever Labor Day weekend operation.